Have you ever found yourself caught in an exhausting cycle of constant prayer, begging and pleading with God, only to feel spiritually drained rather than uplifted? What if I told you that the very approach to prayer that most of us have practiced since childhood might actually be creating a barrier between you and the divine abundance you seek? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Has this ever happened to you? You pray intensely for financial prosperity, yet somehow sink deeper into scarcity. You beg fervently for physical healing, only to notice your symptoms intensifying. You plead for clarity in your life path, yet feel more confused than ever before. There's a profound spiritual paradox at work here, and understanding it could completely transform your relationship with the divine. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might completely revolutionize your approach to prayer and open floodgates of grace you never thought possible. The truth is, most spiritual traditions have missed a critical element in our communion with God. One that spiritual teacher Joel Goldsmith uncovered after decades of seeking. What most of us don't realize is that each time we ask God for something, we're unconsciously affirming its absence in our lives. When you pray for healing, you're energetically declaring, "I am sick." When you beg for abundance, you're proclaiming to the universe, "I am lacking." This subtle but powerful dynamic creates an invisible wall between you and the very blessings already flowing toward you. The revolutionary insight that changed everything for countless spiritual seekers is deceptively simple. What if prayer isn't about asking at all, but about receiving? What if divine love, abundance, healing, and guidance aren't things God gives only when properly petitioned, but eternal gifts already being broadcast into your life in every moment? Imagine approaching the divine not with clenched fists and desperate pleas, but with open hands and a receptive heart. Picture yourself recognizing that what you seek most deeply is already yours in the spiritual realm, and your only task is to align your awareness with that. Profound truth, this subtle shift from asking to receiving consciousness, is the key that unlocks a completely different experience of the spiritual journey. Think of it like tuning into a radio station that's been broadcasting beautiful music all along. The music doesn't begin when you turn your dial. It was always there. You simply adjusted your receiver to the right frequency. In the same way, divine supply isn't activated by your asking. It's perpetually flowing. Your spiritual practice becomes learning to tune in to what has always been present. If you found value in today's message, hit that subscribe button to join our community of spiritual seekers walking this path of transformation together. What many spiritual seekers don't realize is that this transformation isn't about learning a new technique. It's about unlearning patterns that have kept us disconnected from the divine flow. After decades of spiritual searching, Joel Goldsmith stumbled upon this revolutionary truth that contradicted everything he'd been taught about prayer and spirituality. The secret he uncovered was deceptively simple yet profound. Stop asking and start receiving. This mindset revolution challenges our fundamental understanding of how the divine operates. The infinite source of all good, whether we call it God, the universe, or divine intelligence, isn't withholding anything from you until you find the perfect words or demonstrate enough worthiness. Abundance, perfect health, profound peace, and divine wisdom are already flowing toward you in every moment of your existence. The shift from asking consciousness to receiving consciousness happens in that subtle space between perception and reality. It's like realizing you've been trying to create rainfall by begging the clouds, when in fact it's already raining. You simply needed to step outside and feel the drops on your skin. Think about how this applies to the decisions we make daily. How many times have we struggled with a challenge, desperately seeking guidance, when the answers were already present within our consciousness? The hidden truth behind this journey of transformation is that divine guidance doesn't arrive in response to our pleading. It's continuously broadcasting, waiting only for us to tune our receivers. This brings us to what I consider the most powerful metaphor for understanding this process. Imagine the entire cosmos as an infinite radio station, perpetually broadcasting the frequency of abundance, health, harmony, and wisdom. The music, that divine broadcast, doesn't begin when you turn on your radio. It was always playing throughout the universe. Your spiritual practice isn't about convincing the station to play your favorite song. It's about fine-tuning your receiver to clearly capture what's already in the airwaves. The impact of this revelation extends far beyond our prayer life. It fundamentally changes how we navigate every aspect of our existence. When you shift from asking to receiving, you're no longer approaching life from a position of lack, desperately hoping for divine intervention. Instead, you move through your days from a foundation of completeness, recognizing that what you truly need is already flowing toward you. Behind the scenes of this spiritual journey lies a profound truth about human consciousness. We've been conditioned to believe that separation from divine supply is our natural state, and connection happens only through properly executed asking. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that connection is our true nature. Separation was always the illusion. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what happens energetically when we make this shift from asking to receiving. The vibrational signature of these two approaches creates completely different experiences in our spiritual lives. And understanding this distinction makes all the difference in our ability to align with divine flow. If you're beginning to recognize these patterns in your own spiritual journey, write "tuning my receiver" in the comments below. Let's explore this broadcasting metaphor more deeply, because it reveals a fundamental truth about our spiritual existence. The universe itself is an infinite broadcasting station, continuously transmitting divine ideas, perfect health, unlimited abundance, clear guidance, and unconditional love in every moment. These divine transmissions don't suddenly activate when you pray or meditate. They are perpetually flowing through every dimension of existence, saturating your environment with spiritual nourishment. Your consciousness is the sophisticated receiver designed to tune into this broadcast. Think of it like the radio waves that pass through your walls and fill the space around you right now. They're present whether your radio is on or not, whether you're aware of them or not. The symphony of divine intelligence and limitless supply surrounds you in every moment, regardless of your conscious awareness of it. The revelation that transforms your spiritual journey is understanding that when you're in asking mode, it's as though your internal receiver has poor reception. The divine broadcast is there, but distortion and static prevent you from experiencing the clarity and beauty of what's being transmitted. When you shift to receiving mode, you're effectively fine-tuning your receiver, removing the interference, and suddenly the music plays with perfect clarity. This explains the profound difference in energy between these two approaches to spirituality. When you're in asking consciousness, your entire being resonates with the frequency of lack, limitation, and separation. There's an underlying vibration of desperation that says, "I am incomplete without this thing I'm asking for. I need God to give me something I don't have." The hidden truth is that this vibration actually repels what you're seeking because it reinforces the very separation you're trying to overcome. Receiving consciousness carries an entirely different energetic signature. It vibrates with fullness, gratitude, and union with the divine. It quietly acknowledges a profound truth. What God has, I have. What God is, I am. This isn't spiritual arrogance, it's the recognition of your true identity as an expression of divine being. It's understanding that separation from your good was always an illusion created by limited perception. The impact of this mindset revolution extends far beyond your prayer life. When your energy field shifts from the frequency of begging to the frequency of receiving, your entire experience of reality transforms. Decisions that seemed impossible suddenly become clear. Opportunities that were invisible suddenly appear before you. Relationships that were strained begin to heal. Not because you're manipulating others, but because you're relating from wholeness rather than neediness. Behind the scenes, the real work of this practice happens in those quiet moments when you sit in receptive awareness, allowing divine intelligence to flow through your consciousness without interference. The transformation doesn't happen through effort or struggle, but through surrender to what already is. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how we can actually practice this receiving consciousness in practical ways. What would it look like to shift from asking to receiving in your daily spiritual practice? If you're beginning to sense the profound difference between these two approaches, write "shifting my frequency" in the comments below. The beauty of this mindset revolution is that its practice doesn't require complicated rituals or advanced spiritual techniques. It's accessible to anyone willing to shift their perspective about how divine connection works. Let's explore a simple yet powerful practice that can begin your journey from asking to receiving consciousness. Begin by setting aside just 10 minutes of quiet time in a space where you won't be disturbed. This decision to create sacred space is itself a powerful declaration of your readiness for transformation. Find a comfortable position that allows you to be alert yet relaxed. Now, here comes the paradigm shift. Instead of approaching this time with your usual shopping list of needs and wants, the promotion you desire, the healing you seek, the guidance you crave, simply sit in stillness and say within yourself, I'm now open to receive all that God is giving me. Notice the profound blueprint for change embedded in that simple statement. You're not asking for anything specific. You're not trying to manifest particular outcomes. You're simply acknowledging the divine flow that's already present and opening yourself to it. This is the essence of spiritual receptivity, recognizing that divine substance is already pouring into every dimension of your life. Subscribe now to continue this journey of spiritual growth and discover more powerful insights that can transform your relationship with the divine. Allow yourself to feel like an open channel. Don't force anything. Don't strain to visualize specific outcomes. Simply be receptive, like the earth receives rain, like your lungs receive air, like a flower receives sunlight. This natural, effortless spiritual breathing creates space for revelation and intuitive wisdom to emerge. The hidden truth behind this practice is that it reverses years of conditioned thinking about your relationship with the divine. We've been taught that prayer is about convincing God to act on our behalf. This revolutionary approach suggests that God is already acting. Your only task is to align your awareness with what's already happening. Let me share a powerful real-world example that illustrates the impact of this seemingly subtle shift. Maria had been praying desperately for financial breakthrough for 3 years. Each month brought mounting debt and increasing anxiety. Her asking had become almost violent in its intensity. She would literally shake her fists at heaven, demanding God answer her prayers. Yet her situation only worsened, creating a vicious cycle of spiritual frustration. When Maria discovered this teaching on receptivity, her initial reaction was resistance. "If I stop asking, God will forget about me," she protested. But desperation made her willing to experiment. For 30 days, she practiced simply receiving instead of asking. Each morning and evening she would sit quietly, opening her consciousness to divine supply. The journey wasn't instantaneous. The first 2 weeks felt empty, almost frightening. Nothing seemed to be happening externally, but internally something was shifting. The constant knot of anxiety in her chest began to loosen. A strange peace replaced her panic. By week 3, unexpected opportunities started appearing. A freelance project, a debt forgiven, a forgotten refund check. 6 months. Later, Maria's financial situation had completely transformed. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this practice of receptivity can transform other areas of our lives beyond finances. The same principles that worked for Maria apply to healing, relationships, and creative endeavors. If you're ready to experiment with this shift from asking to receiving in your own life, write "open to receive" in the comments below. The power of this receptivity practice extends far beyond financial concerns. Physical healing is another area where the shift from asking to receiving creates profound breakthroughs. Consider David's transformation during his 5-year battle with a chronic health condition. Like many of us, David had exhausted himself with desperate healing prayers. He'd attended every healing service, anointed himself with oil, declared healing scriptures, and done everything he believed would convince God to heal him. Yet his body remained sick, and his asking had become almost angry. Imagine frustrated at God for not responding to his faithful petitions. The turning point in David's journey came when a friend introduced him to this revolutionary approach to spiritual healing. The concept startled him at first. What if healing wasn't something God needed to send, but something already present in his true spiritual nature? What if his asking was actually the obstacle preventing him from experiencing the wholeness that was already his? This revelation challenged everything David thought he knew about spiritual healing. Behind the scenes, a profound mindset shift was occurring. Instead of begging for healing, he began sitting quietly each day and affirming, "I am open to receive the perfect health that is my divine inheritance." He stopped fighting his symptoms and started resting in the presence of God. This wasn't denial of his condition. It was recognition of a deeper spiritual reality beyond physical appearance. Progress came gradually over many months. Some days were harder than others, but slowly his symptoms began shifting. More importantly, fear released its grip on his consciousness. Within a year, medical tests confirmed what David already felt: significant improvement. His doctor called it spontaneous remission. David called it learning to receive what God had already given. The impact of receptivity also extends into our relationships. Jennifer discovered this truth in her journey to heal her troubled marriage. For years, she had prayed fervently, "Please change my husband, make him understand me, fix our communication." Her prayers were focused entirely on asking God to transform her partner and their circumstances. When Jennifer encountered this teaching on receptivity, her initial response was resistance. "If I stop asking God to fix my marriage, it will definitely fall apart," she thought. But her current approach clearly wasn't working, so she decided to experiment with a different path. Instead of asking God to change her husband, she practiced receiving divine love and peace into her own consciousness. Each morning, she'd sit quietly and open herself to receive God's love, not asking for anything external to change, but allowing her inner being to be filled with divine presence. The transformation began subtly. She noticed herself responding differently to her husband, less reactive, more peaceful, genuinely more loving without effort or pretense. The revelation came when she realized that her shift in consciousness was creating ripples that affected their entire relationship dynamic. Over several months, something remarkable happened. As Jennifer changed her consciousness from asking to receiving, her husband began responding differently. Their relationship wasn't magically perfect, but genuine healing occurred through this journey of inner transformation rather than external manipulation. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this principle applies to professional endeavors and business challenges. The same pattern of transformation we've seen in health and relationships manifests powerfully in our creative and entrepreneurial pursuits. If you've noticed how inner shifts create outer changes in your own life, write "inner transforms outer" in the comments below. The principles of receptivity can be equally transformative in our professional lives and business endeavors. Thomas experienced this firsthand when his once thriving business collapsed, pushing him to the brink of bankruptcy. His initial response was classic asking consciousness, desperate negotiations with God. "I'll serve you forever if you just save my business. I'll give more to charity. I'll be a better person. Please, God, don't let me lose everything." His prayers were filled with fear, bargaining, and the exhausting energy of trying to convince God to rescue him. The blueprint for transformation arrived unexpectedly when he discovered a book someone had left behind at a coffee shop. The title immediately caught his attention: The Art of Spiritual Healing. Within those pages, Thomas encountered Joel Goldsmith's revolutionary approach to prayer. Instead of begging God for business success, he learned to practice receptive consciousness, opening himself to divine guidance and supply. Thomas began 20-minute daily sessions of simply receiving, "I am open to the infinite supply of God. I receive divine wisdom for my next steps. I rest in the knowledge that God's abundance is my abundance." The strategy shift was profound. He stopped the frantic energy of asking and entered the peaceful energy of receiving. Almost immediately, his mindset began to transform. The panic subsided, replaced by a quiet confidence. Then the breakthroughs started happening. Ideas began flowing. Connections appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Opportunities manifested in unexpected ways. Within 18 months, Thomas had not only recovered from near bankruptcy, but had created a more successful business aligned with his true purpose. The revelation wasn't just that his external circumstances had improved. It was the understanding that God hadn't been withholding anything. He'd simply been too busy asking to notice what was already being given. Receptivity opened his eyes to see and his hands to grasp divine supply that had surrounded him all along. This journey of transformation brings us to another powerful practice Joel Goldsmith taught, what he called practicing the presence. Throughout your day, pause frequently to simply acknowledge God is present here and now. This isn't asking God to show up. It's recognizing the divine presence that's already here. You can do this while washing dishes, driving to work, sitting in a meeting, or waiting in line. Brief moments of acknowledging presence. God is here. The infinite is expressing right where I am. Divine intelligence is operating in this situation. These micro practices train your consciousness to remain in receptive mode rather than slipping back into asking mode. They create a rhythm of awareness that gradually transforms how you experience every moment of your life. Instead of moving through your day feeling separate from divine supply, you begin recognizing the continuous flow of grace already operating in each situation. This shift in awareness doesn't require hours of meditation or complex rituals, just simple acknowledgements throughout your day that divine presence is with you. The impact of these momentary recognitions gradually accumulates, creating a foundation of receptivity that influences every decision, interaction, and experience. Your entire approach to challenges shifts. Instead of immediately asking for divine intervention, you first acknowledge the presence already at work in the situation. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what Joel Goldsmith called the releasing treatment in his spiritual healing work, a concept that introduces a radical paradigm shift in how we approach difficulties. If you've begun practicing these moments of acknowledgement in your daily life, write "practicing presence" in the comments below. The releasing treatment concept introduces a radical paradigm shift that challenges our conventional understanding of how spiritual healing occurs. In traditional prayer approaches, we identify a problem, illness, financial lack, relationship discord, and ask God to fix it. We treat the condition by focusing intensely on changing it. Joel discovered a more effective approach. We don't treat conditions at all. We treat our consciousness to receive the truth of wholeness that already exists. The distinction is subtle but revolutionary. You're not trying to change reality. You're opening yourself to perceive reality as it truly is in spiritual terms. When facing any challenge in your life, instead of asking God to remove it, practice this alternative. I release this situation to divine intelligence. I open myself to receive God's perfect solution. I rest in the truth that infinite wisdom is already resolving this in ways I cannot yet see. This approach creates a gateway for unexpected breakthroughs to emerge. This isn't passive resignation or spiritual bypassing. It's active receptivity, a profound recognition that divine intelligence is already at work in your situation. Your asking might actually interfere with solutions already in motion. Your receiving allows those solutions to become visible and manifest. It's the difference between pushing a river and floating with its current. Both involve water, but one exhausts you while the other carries you effortlessly. The breakthrough insight here is understanding that you aren't convincing God to create a new reality. You're aligning your perception with the perfect spiritual reality that already exists beyond material appearances. This mindset revolution transforms your relationship with every challenge you face. Now, let's address the biggest obstacle you'll likely encounter when shifting from asking to receiving. This challenge is so universal that nearly everyone experiences it, and overcoming it represents a major milestone in your spiritual journey. The first and most significant hurdle is the persistent feeling that you're doing absolutely nothing. Asking feels active, powerful, like you're taking charge of your life and spirituality. Receiving, in contrast, often feels passive, lazy, even like you're giving up. Your ego will scream, "You have to ask, you have to pursue, you have to make things happen." This internal resistance is where most people abandon the practice and return to desperate asking. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that this discomfort is actually a sign of progress. You're experiencing the dissolution of ego patterns that have dominated your spiritual life. The feeling of doing nothing is actually the feeling of stopping your interference with divine flow. When this resistance arises, and it will, remind yourself, asking is the energy of separation and lack. Receiving is the energy of oneness and abundance. The transformation requires tremendous trust to stop asking and simply open yourself to what God is already giving. You're not being passive. You're being receptive, which is profoundly active in the spiritual dimension. Think of it like learning to float in water. When you first try, your body tenses and you sink. Only when you fully relax and trust do you discover the water naturally supports you. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring another significant challenge on this journey: the gap between when you shift your consciousness and when you see tangible results in your life. If you're beginning to understand this distinction between interfering and allowing, write "learning to float" in the comments. Another significant challenge on this journey is what spiritual teachers call the gap, that mysterious space between when you shift your consciousness and when you begin seeing tangible results in your life. This is where patience becomes your greatest ally. You might practice receiving consciousness faithfully for days or weeks without any visible change in your circumstances. Your bank account still empty, your body still manifesting symptoms, your relationship still strained. The temptation becomes overwhelming to abandon receptivity and return to the familiar territory of asking, bargaining, and pleading with God. Joel Goldsmith addressed this challenge specifically in his teachings. He explained that consciousness shift always precedes manifestation shift. Your inner transformation must stabilize before your outer world reflects it. This delay isn't a sign of failure. It's actually a necessary part of the process, a purification period where your new consciousness is taking root. The breakthrough insight here is understanding that this gap serves as a test of authenticity. It reveals whether you're truly receiving or just asking in a different way. Are you practicing receptivity because you trust God or because you want results? When you face this delay, and most people do, use it to deepen your practice rather than abandon it. Behind the scenes, powerful transformations are occurring in your spiritual awareness, even when nothing appears to be changing in your material circumstances. The most tragic scenario Joel witnessed repeatedly was people who gave up just before their breakthrough. They practiced receiving for 3 weeks, saw no results, and returned to desperate asking, missing the manifestation that was about to appear. Trust the unseen process of consciousness transformation, even when circumstances haven't caught up yet. The outer always follows the inner, but there's often a gap between the two. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what Joel Goldsmith described as the ultimate truth behind all spiritual practice. This revelation brings together everything we've discussed and illuminates why the shift from asking to receiving is so transformative. The ultimate truth Joel revealed is this: you are not separate from God, trying to receive gifts from an external source. You are the very consciousness of God, receiving awareness of your own infinite nature. When you practice receiving, you're not getting something new. You're removing the veil that blocked your recognition of what has always been yours. This is why asking never truly worked. You were essentially asking yourself to give yourself what you already possessed. You were demanding that God provide what God has never stopped providing. The problem was never God's unwillingness to give. The problem was your inability to receive because your consciousness was focused on lack rather than abundance, on separation rather than oneness. The impact of this revelation is immeasurable. Every moment you spend in receptive awareness, you're practicing the truth of your being. You're not becoming spiritual. You're recognizing the spirituality that has always been your essential nature. If you're beginning to glimpse this ultimate truth about your relationship with the divine, write "removing the veil" in the comments below. Now you understand the profound wisdom Joel Goldsmith discovered after decades of spiritual seeking, that your spiritual journey isn't about convincing God to give you things, but about opening yourself to receive what's already yours. This shift from asking to receiving doesn't just change how you pray, it transforms your entire relationship with the divine and with life itself. I create these videos because I believe these transformative spiritual insights can change lives. They certainly changed mine. Each time we practice receptivity, we're not just improving our circumstances, we're aligning with the truth of who we really are. We're removing the veils that blocked our recognition of our divine inheritance. If this perspective has resonated with you today, I'd love to know you made it all the way through. Simply write, "I choose to receive," in the comments to let me know this message found its way to you. Your journey of receptivity is just beginning, and I'm honored to be part of it. That gentle tap on the like button helps these teachings reach others who might be ready for this shift in consciousness. It creates ripples of transformation that extend beyond what we can see. For those ready to take the next step in practicing receptivity, I've created a video that explores the practical daily habits that reinforce receiving consciousness. It's right here on your screen. Click and join me there as we continue this journey together. Remember, you're not becoming something new. You're simply recognizing what you've always been, one with the infinite source of all good.